Right, good afternoon, Muganites. This is a quick tutorial on how to create portraits for the screen pack released by NoZ or NoZ. Not quite sure how you pronounce it, so I'm going to stick with NoZ for this tutorial. Um, I got this request from a user who said, I'm using this particular screen pack. I've got a lot of characters for which there are no portraits yet, and I would like to be able to make them myself, but I'm not quite sure how to do this. So could you help me out? So with this tutorial, I hope to be able to give you a bit of a basis on how to go about creating the portraits for these characters. I'm using Photoshop, so I suggest you either get Photoshop yourself, or if you have it already, good for you, or you get a program that has similar functions to Photoshop. As you can see here on my screen, I've got small.psd opened, so if you want to work along with me, then I suggest you open this file. I'm randomly going to create the portraits for a random character that I picked out. So I'm going to press Control O on my keyboard, and if you're on a Mac, you press Command O, and you go to the folder where you've got your artwork. I'm going to create the portraits for a character called Wakaba Hinata. Some of you out there may or may not know her. This is the portrait that's used for highlighting the character on your character select screen. So I'm just gonna open this right here. Now, as you can see, the artwork has a solid white background, and this is something you want to look out for when looking for artwork to use when you're creating your portraits, because the less colors there are in the background, the easier it is to extract the character itself from the background. The best would be if you had a render without a background, which means it's ready for use immediately. But for now, I'm going to remove the white background, which leaves only the character in the end. What I'm going to do here in my layers panel is double click on background, which gives me the prompt, do you want to turn the background into a layer, which I do. And from here I press Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and press this little layer button, which creates a layer below the active layer, and I'm going to fill that with a white color. So you're going to press G on your keyboard, which selects the paint bucket tool, and in here I select a black color and I fill it with black. You won't see it because there is white on top of it. And what I'm going to do now, because the background is solid white, I can go to the eraser tool, right click on the icon here and select Magic Eraser Tool. In the top here I've set the tolerance to 25. It's on that by default for me. Tolerance indicates how many clusters of a particular color are erased at the same time, because what the magic eraser does, it is removes color clusters. So instead of getting the normal eraser tool and carefully erasing around the edges, what magic eraser does, it just erases a particular color, which immediately removes most of the white background around the character, reducing a lot of time. Now you see here there is some white left, so I click here again and even that gets removed. Now the reason I made a black layer below this character is because if you zoom in, you can see there is a thin outline surrounding the character, and this tends to happen when you use the magic eraser tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard, or again Command if you're on a Mac, and click the thumbnail of the layer which houses the character. This makes an outline of my character shape. From here I go to Select, Modify, and I'm going to select Contract. Usually 1 pixel is enough. Sometimes you're going to need 2, depending on how rough the outline of your character turned out to be, but for now 1 pixel will do. And Contract literally does that. It contracts the entire selection, the entire shape of your character by 1 pixel. Now what you're going to do is press and hold down Command or Control, Shift and press I. What this does, it inverts the selection, so right now everything but the character shape is selected, minus that 1 pixel border we just contracted. So if I just press Delete now on my keyboard and then press Control or Command D on my keyboard, which deselects my selection, and I zoom in, you can see that the outline has vanished because we deleted that along with the inversion we created just now. So with this, you can see that my character has been extracted from the background, or more like we deleted the background, leaving only the character intact. So from here, I can go to Layer, Duplicate Layer, and I'm going to send it over to small.psd. If I go to that file right now, you might think, hey, where did my character go? It is here, it's just not on the canvas. So if you press V on your keyboard, which indicates the Move tool, you can drag the character up from the bottom right corner. Here you can already see her, she is just way too big to fit on this canvas. Now what we're going to do is press Control or Command T on your keyboard, which creates the selection around your character. To the pick one of the corners, either left or right, doesn't matter. Hold down Shift and then click and drag to resize your character without messing up the proportions. Alternatively, you can also press and hold down Shift and Alt and then click and drag, because this resizes the character from the center instead of from just the corner. And once you think, hey, this is a nice size for my character, something like this. Yeah, this will do. There. Once you're happy with your selection and how small it has gotten, you press the OK button, and now you can see that your character has been resized, but it doesn't fit at all within the borders of the character selection portrait. So what you could do is grab the eraser tool and carefully brush away the sides of the character. That is one way to do it. However, this destroys the image completely because you're literally erasing portions of the character. If you want a faster way and a fail-safe way to boot, 2 for the price of 1, what you do here is you see a pink shape here. This is the actual outline of the entire portrait. I'm gonna hold down Control or Command if you're on a Mac, click on that portrait, and now you can see the outline has once again been selected. We did this with our character just a few seconds ago. And from here, make sure that your character layer is selected, which it is, and down here at the bottom you see, well, sort of like a postcard-like icon. If you click that, it means that a mask has been created, and only the portion of the character that fits within that shape is revealed. I can right-click on this mask icon and I can temporarily disable the mask, which reveals everything of my character once again. I can re-enable it. I can even delete it if I'm so inclined, or I can actually apply it, which means that I destroy the actual image of my character, but at least in the shape of this portrait. However, since I swear by working dynamically, I say keep masks alive, so you can always revert and edit portions of this portrait without having to do everything from scratch. Now all you have to do is turn off the layer that was already here when we opened the file. So press this little eyeball, which makes this layer invisible, and this leaves us with a newly created portrait for Hinata. So I'm going to press Control or Command Shift S on my keyboard and pick a folder, save it as a PNG file, because this allows us to save files without a solid background. So once you get the PNG options panel open, simply click OK, and that is the end of it. And that is actually all there is to it for this particular portrait. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, the file I've got opened now is called BIG.psd. By default, there are icons of Akuma in here, and we will be replacing these portraits with portraits of Hinata. As you can see, there are two different pieces of artwork used in this particular portrait, so we will be doing the same. So you go to your folder and open which particular artworks you want shown in these rasters, and I'm gonna go for this one and this one. Open. Now you may get a prompt saying that the embedded RGB profile does not match what I've got going on, so I just say assign it to the workspace that I have indicated in Photoshop, and they will load regardless. Right, let's start with this one. Again, I'm going to double click on the background layer, just press enter, which turns the background into a layer, which allows for a little bit more flexibility. Again, I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard and press left click, which creates a layer below layer 0. I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool by pressing G, and I'm going to fill it with a solid black color, which you cannot see just yet. Okay, from here I'm once again going to grab my Magic Eraser tool by right-clicking on this icon here and selecting the Magic Eraser tool, because the background is once again a solid white, convenient. So I will click anywhere on the white space of this artwork, and already we can see that most of the work has been done for us. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit more information on this artwork. We don't want Natsu to be in the portrait we will be creating. Neither do we want the text in there, or maybe you do, but I, for one, don't. So you can go about this two ways. You can grab the eraser tool and simply erase away all the information that we don't need. You can make it a bit bigger and simply erase her away. Or you can grab the lasso tool here at the top, and I can drag a selection around Hinata, like so. Right click in the selection and say a layer via cut or via copy, whichever you prefer. And this will single out the shape of Hinata from the rest of the layer, so I can make this invisible, and we've got Hinata altogether. You can use whichever method you prefer. There is no one surefire way to do it. Now, if I zoom in, we can once again see this thin, sort of transparent line, as well as a few specks of white from the background, which weren't removed in the initial removing process. So again, I'm going to command click on the thumbnail. I'm going to go to select, modify, contract, and I'm going to select 1 pixel, and I'm going to click OK. From here, I press Control Shift or Command Shift I, which inverts the selection I just created. I'm going to hit delete. I press Control or Command D, and once again the thin line has mysteriously disappeared. Now, in cases of these little specks of white, the best thing I can recommend you to do is just take a small eraser and just manually get rid of them like so. And that is our first artwork ready for use in the portrait that we will be creating shortly. So I will be, actually I'll do this, I'll do them one by one. So right now I'm gonna duplicate this layer to BIG.psd, click OK. I go to BIG.psd and there we have Hinata. I'm going to use her as the player 1 portrait, and as you can see now, she looks a bit small, especially compared to Akuma. As you can see, I mean, if we were to turn off his portrait, you can see that there is still a lot of space around this character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge her. I'm going to press Control T on my keyboard or Command T on the Mac, and I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt and then click and drag to increase this portrait in size until I'm happy with how it has turned out. And I think just a little smaller. I think something like this will do just fine. And yes, I think that will do. Now, as you can see, this layer is on top of everything else, which is not what we want. So we click and hold down the left mouse button and we drag this layer down, let's say above the layer that I just turned off. There we go. We can already see the name popping up in front of the character and this little sort of glowing border. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that this character is fitted within this triangle shape so that nothing is jutting out on any of the sides. As you can see here, her arm is sticking out, her leg is sticking out, her fingers. Now, all the way at the bottom, you see these black shapes, which is that particular shape. I'm going to hold down Control or Command, left click on this thumbnail, which creates an outline around this triangle. Make sure that my character layer is selected, which it is. And again, I'm going to click this mask icon, which makes sure that only the portions within this triangle shape are shown and the rest is hidden away until further notice, really. So this makes sure that my character is confined within this triangle shape. Next up, I'm going to go to the name layer. What you can do here is simply double click on this T icon, say click click, and this automatically highlights all the text that this layer houses. Now, of course, this girl is not called Akuma, it's Wakaba Hinata, or if you simply want to stick to singular names, then Hinata will do the same. Now, let's make that all caps, like so. Now, there are those of you out there, me included, who feel that the red or the blue color don't always work as well with the characters in question. What you can do is select this thumbnail, make sure you don't have the mask selected, make sure you have the character layer selected. Right click on this layer, go to blending options, and go to outer glow. Now I'm using a newer version of Photoshop. Older versions, I believe, have the outer glow a little higher in this list, but it is definitely there. Click on the text, and I previously checked that the size on the elements bar is actually 15 pixels large. So that's what I'm going to do here. I made it 15 pixels, and you can see that the white outer glow has increased in size from 4 or 5 to 15. If you click on this icon here, you can select whichever color you want, however you want, how dark you want, how vibrant you want it. It doesn't really matter. For example, if I'm if I feel so inclined to use green, by all means use green. I mean, it's for your own personal use. However, for the sake of this tutorial and for the sake of keeping NoZ's hard work intact, I will just stick to the normal default colors. So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to go to this layer of Akuma, which I just turned off. I'll turn it on again for the moment. As you can see, there is a red outer glow around this artwork. So what if I would want this exact glow around Hinata? Well, I can try and do this manually, use the color picker and create this outer glow. But a faster way to do this is to right-click on Akuma's layer, say click on Copy Layer Style. I can make Akuma invisible now, I don't need him anymore. Select Hinata's layer, again make sure you don't have the mask layer selected but the actual layer. Right-click on that, right-click on the text then, and say Paste Layer Style. What this does, it copies the exact layer style, in this case the outer glow, and administers this effect to the layer you so desire. So this is one of two portraits done. Let's move to the second artwork. Alright, so here we have the second artwork of Hinata. Now, you might come across artworks which may be a tad spicy, but considering the limited space that we have, there's no way I could fit all of her inside that shape unless I resize her to be very small, which isn't really all that efficient. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is again double-click on the background to make it a layer. Again, create a layer below this layer by using Control left click on the layer button. Fill this layer with a black color and then move back to the actual character layer. Again, I use the magic eraser tool because the background is a solid white, and as I click, again 99% of the work has been done for me. There's a little icon here at the bottom which you can easily remove with the normal eraser, like so. And if we zoom in again, we can see this line of transparency along with some specks of white that were left behind. So again, I'm going to Control click on my character portrait. I'm going to select, modify and contract. Select 1 pixel, hit Control Shift I, which inverts my selection. I'm going to hit delete. I press Control D, and again I'm left with a fairly clean render of my character, like so. Alright, I'm happy with this render as is, so I'm going to layer, duplicate layer, send her to BIG.psd, and voila, there she blows. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this character a lot larger, as well as rotate her a little bit. So what I'm going to do is hit Control T or Command T on the keyboard, which creates the transform outline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my mouse just above the corner, which creates the sort of rotation icon, which means that I can rotate my character in any way I want. So I'm going to just turn it a little bit more upright, like so. Then I'm going to go to the corner, hit Shift and Alt, and then click and drag to increase this character in size. And I think something like this, maybe a tad more to the nose. I think this will do just fine. So once I'm happy with my placement, I click OK. And right now, just as we did previously with the other artwork, I'm going to the bottom black triangle shape, this one. I'm going to Control left click on the thumbnail, which creates an outline of this triangle shape. I make sure my character layer is selected, and again I'm going to click the mask icon, which masks the my character portrait with this triangle shape. Again, with as we did with the previous artwork, I'm going to Akuma's layer, this one. I'm going to right click on it. I say copy layer style. I make this layer invisible now as I don't need it anymore. And with this layer I say right click, paste layer style, and again my layer style has been copied, so I don't have to do anything manually. It is being done for me. Now the last thing that I need to do, and you would do well not to forget this, is to go to the other text layer, double click on the thumbnail, and rename the character to their rightful name. Now what you don't want to forget at the very end is to turn off these black triangles, because we're saving this as an image without further background information, without an actual background, so whatever this image is posted on top of, whatever is below can still be seen. So I'm gonna hit Control Shift S on my keyboard. We're gonna save this portrait. I'm going to go to the folder, I'm going to PNG, I'm going to hit save, and I once again click OK. And with that, the second portrait has been finished. Let's move to the third one. Okay, here we have a livebar.psd. This is the icon that appears to the side of the actual live bar of the character. And for this portrait, I prefer to find images where the character is actually facing the live bar, but if you cannot find such an image, basically anything is fine. It's just personal preference, really. I'm going to find a suitable piece of work, and I think I will actually stick with the one that I also used for small.png, which should still be... nope, it's not open anymore. So I'm going to open this character again, double click on background, okay, create a new layer below this and fill it with black. Go to this layer, get my magic eraser tool, remove the background, highlight my character, contract the selection by 1 pixel, invert it, delete it, and voila. Now, with this layer as it is, I'm going to send it to livebar.psd, and if we go there, lo and behold, my character appears. Now, if you say, well, I'd rather have, my character flipped horizontally, so she will be facing slightly facing the other way, I can, let me resize it a bit for you to see it more clearly. I can hit Control T to open the transformation outline, so to speak. I press right click and I say flip horizontal. What this does is that it flips the character horizontally, literally. So in some cases this may work better, and for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to stick with this for the moment. Now here we have reuse head as a point of reference, so you can try and match this size more or less, something like so. It doesn't matter if your character is clipping outside of the border of this file. Sometimes it might actually look kind of fitting, if you will. It's all personal preference. I'm gonna do something like this. Now, what I want to do is I want purely the head to appear. next to my life bar. I don't want her. I don't want her fist. I don't want this bow tie here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to my normal eraser tool. On my canvas, I'm going to right click and make sure that the hardness is set all the way to 0, which makes it a very soft brush. Using the bracket keys on my keyboard, I can either increase my brush size or I can make it smaller. So I'm just going to go with something like this and simply carefully brush away the parts that I don't want and or need. And maybe just a tad of her face, maybe slightly the hair, some over here, something like this. So I can simply make the other two layers invisible as they're simply as an indication. And this is actually all you need for the life bar. This is it's done like this. So I can simply save my file as a PNG file, and voila, that is all there is to it to create a life bar. Now I'm going to move to the last file. Statistically there are two extra files that I could be doing. The slightly bigger version of small.psd and teams.psd, but these two are extremely similar to the very first file that we did, small.psd. So I think you should be able to figure that out if you listen closely to what I explained at that part. So on to the final template, which is versus win.psd, and this is the portrait layout for the versus screen as well as the win screen. So with this in mind, the first thing I'm simply going to do is double click on the text layers, and I'm simply going to rename my character already so I won't have to do that later on. And I'm going to click on this layer right here, so when I import my character it's already in place and I don't have to drag it down my layer panel. Right, so I'm going to select a portrait for the versus screen, and I think that this, yeah, I like that. Okay, so again I'm going to double click on this background layer, make it a normal layer. I'm going to create a layer below this layer and fill it with black. Going back to this layer, and I'm going to select my magic eraser tool. Now if you zoom in a little and press anywhere on this white space, you can see that a portion of her uniform is being deleted along with the background. This is because the shades of white on her uniform are close enough to the color of the background to be considered information to be removed. Now, the reason this is being removed is probably because there is a crack in this blackish line through which the magic eraser breaks, as it were, to remove information. Because normally, if you have a darker color, as you can see, there's a dark line surrounding her arm, which means that that is where the sort of tracing of the magic eraser stops. However, this is too thin, or there's a small crack, a very small crack somewhere, which tells the magic eraser, hey, I can pass through here and delete this information as well, because that is also white. So what you can do is set the tolerance here to, we'll say 10. Let's see if that helps. There we go. Now you can see there are a bit more whitish artifacts, as it were, around the character, because less information has been deleted. Delete this. Now, as you can see here, this gray color also wasn't white enough naturally to be deleted. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to click on this gray area, and that is actually the gist of it. The rest of this outline you can delete by using a normal eraser brush, which is what I'm going to do right now. As you can see, the sole of her shoe is running something like so. You can use other more advanced tools if you're an advanced Photoshop user, and you can use like the pen tool to do this more accurately, but right now I can't be arsed really, and this will do just fine. So let me just erase that, get rid of that. Small piece here, rid of this line, get a bit bigger and get rid of that. And lastly, this sign here, sorry original creator. And this leaves me with a pretty nice render, save for some spots over there, which I can simply remove by clicking on the white spaces like so. Maybe I should have set my tolerance back to 25, which works better. Maybe do that for the other parts as well. By the way, if you want to undo an action, press Control Alt and Z on your keyboard, or Command Alt and Z, which undoes the actions that you performed to redo it again or try it again, basically. So click, 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 click. Right, with this I'm happy enough. I'm simply gonna Command or Control click my outline, go to Select, Modify, Contract, 1 pixel, Control Shift I or Command Shift I, hit Delete, and I think most of the information regarding that thin outline has been removed. Now, if you're a perfectionist and are bothered by these small white specks that are left around this character, you can manually remove them, like so. Something like that. Okay, when you're happy, and I am, I'm going to Layer, Duplicate Layer. I'm going to send this layer to M.U.G.E.N, and there is my character. Now, this is hardly a fitting size for the first screen, so what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to increase my character in size by holding down Shift, Alt, and clicking and dragging after having pressed Control or Command T on the keyboard. And I think something like this will do nicely. Again, you can choose to have a small portion of your character disappear from screen. If you prefer to have everything of the hair in view, then you can do that as well, but I'm personally not too bothered by it. You see it in quite a few games actually. So I think something like this will do just nicely. Now, we need the exact same artwork on the other side, because you've got two versions, one to the left, one to the right. So what I'm going to do is hit Control or Command J on my keyboard, which creates a duplicate of this layer. So if I press V on my keyboard, I can drag an identical copy to the other side. I hit Control or Command T, right click, and flip this horizontally so it faces the correct way. Just readjust it a little bit, like so. And maybe just a little bit, there we go. Something like that. Right. We do not want portions of the legs overlapping with the windscreen, because when you see the actual windscreen of this character, you will actually see her legs on this windscreen. So what we're going to do is go down to these red and green rectangles. Well, yeah, rectangles. Control left click on the right rectangle and select the layer that corresponds with this rectangle. In this case, it's the layer that was already selected. I'm going to hit the mask button, and this hides away all the information that falls outside of that rectangle. In this case, her legs. Now I'm going to select the other layer, and I'm going to control click on this green rectangle, and I'm going to hit mask again, and that is that. Now the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to these artworks of Jin Kazama, which you can see in the background. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to say copy layer style, and I select this layer, right click, paste layer style, and this again copies the exact layer information to the new layer. So now I can turn off this layer. I don't need it anymore. Again, I'm going to copy this layer style and make it invisible and apply it to the other layer. The last thing that we want to do is we want to select this portrait right here, so we don't have to drag our upcoming layer all the way up or down. And I think I will go with this layer. This seems like a nice windscreen sort of layer. So I'm going to duplicate this layer to win. And if I press V on my keyboard, I can drag her into view. Now, she is way too small for the screen, so we will be increasing her in size. I'm going to press Control T or Command T on my keyboard, Shift Alt and click and drag to increase this character. And I think this is actually a pretty nice pose. So I press OK, and I press Control or Command left click on this pink square just to be sure, and I press the mask button. And now all that is left to do is make all the unnecessary elements invisible. That is turning off the red, green, pink layer, as well as this winning portrait of Kazuya. And that is our versus and win screen. And with that I can hit Control Shift S or Command Shift S and save this character. And that is that. I hope the other two portraits, those being small, bigger ver.psd and teams.psd, will not be too much trouble for you. I hope this tutorial helps you a bit. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a private message. And in the next video I will be doing, I'm going to go a little more in depth when it comes to changing color on a character's uniform, or perhaps make it a darker skin tone, and different selection techniques when the background is not a pure white color or another black color that is easy to remove with a simple click of the magic eraser tool. Thank you for watching, and happy gaming.